In this video, we're going to be talking about 5 signs that you will not be a billionaire. Where's the credibility? Why listen to me? Well, basically, there's about 180 books by billionaires. I have the longest standing list, the most relevant list on the web I have for many years now, and it's constantly being updated, and it's ranked #1 for terms like books written by billionaires on Google for years now. And I've actually read through a good portion of the books on this list. I think I've read about 30 to 40 on that list now. And man, have I come out a different person than when I started. And I have so much information, intel on what it takes to be a billionaire. And I think there's a lot of false assumptions or ideas out there. So let's get started with the first one. If you say something like, I'm going to be a billionaire one day, or my goal is to be a billionaire, or make $1 billion, or, I'm going to pile up a bunch of money and become a billionaire, you're already on the wrong track usually. I'm not saying you can't get there doing that, but let me tell you, I can't think of a single billionaire who has set that out as a goal. Sure, some have said they want to be millionaires, but there's a huge distinction there. Let me explain why. Let me break it down. Most of these billionaires came in with a different motivational driver. They came in either pursuing a passion or a business that they really enjoyed. And that started to grow and scale, sometimes to levels that they would have never fathomed. Other times they pursued a business that they thought would make a good living and have tons of growth. Sam Walton from Walmart's example. The passion group's very large. Richard Branson, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, tons and tons more. Mark Cuban. And so when you break down what drives them, it's usually that passion. It's usually some level of just, okay, this is a nice small business to grow and put my time into. Their sites almost always are fairly small and, very modest. Sam Walton did not set out to build an international empire. He simply saw that penny and dime stores were a business model that was dying, and he had to get out of that and get into the new discount retail model, or he would die. And so not really die, but his business would die. And so he did that, and it was successful. And he's like, let me start a second store, which turned into a third, a fourth, and man, years later, empire. So think about that. Like, I think, I've seen people on YouTube. A couple years ago, I saw an older man on YouTube who seemed already fairly wealthy, but he was like, I'm going to be a billionaire. And I was like, that's a red flag. For getting there. The intentions are not always set out or even thought to make $1 billion. They want to get rich, of course, but they don't always necessarily have those crazy aims. And if you have that, you might start and build and reverse engineer a business model off the wrong intentions, off the money, rather than starting small and then scaling from there and growing from something with maybe a bit more of a natural motivational driver. Elon Musk, another example, he actually did it more so for the good of humanity in a sense. His driver was partly passion, partly saving and improving climate change, and then having a backup planet in case Earth ever got destroyed. So it was very almost selfless based, not I'm going to make this money. So that's sign #1. Sign #2, are you in a business that is scalable? A lot of these billionaires were in scalable businesses. All the richest people in the world owned equity in a business. Why? Because businesses are scalable. You could sell to millions of people and make billions of dollars because of that. You can delegate and create an infrastructure where people do the work, and since you own part of the company, you bear and you get a lot of its fruit if it bears fruit. And so, assuming your business is successful, scalable businesses work really well. And so I think that's something that's simple and obvious, but I think people can miss it because let's just be frank. If you're consulting, if you're trading dollars for hours or hours for dollars, and you're just working a 9 to 5 job, there's a limit and ceiling to that. Even if you're a lawyer or a doctor, uh, you have to show up there every day. If you get sick, if you get injured, the income stops coming. Whereas with a business, um, sure, in certain cases, if you're the active driver of that business, you can't be hands off, but over time, does become a state where it can end up being hands off because you've built this infrastructure, this giant organization with all these employees who are doing the work for you. And, that's really why Warren Buffett sometimes he jokes about this, he's able to just sit there on his butt and do nothing the whole day and make a few $1 million. He's invested in these businesses that he lets the CEOs do the work. He says, I like the culture, I like the business, like how you're doing things. Don't stop, just keep doing things the way they are. Don't let me get involved. So that's number 2. Number 3, billionaires oftentimes have a kind of central theme around understanding what they can invest in. So the third sign is, are you ever really focusing on that central theme, that central idea, that business or that thing you're pursuing that drives that? And maybe you haven't realized that yet or discovered it or invented it yet, but they usually have that central thing that they're reinvesting their profits in. And what I mean by that is, I think some people will just try to do like 5 different things at once. And, they're trying to be an actor, and then they're trying to be a lawyer as well, and then they're trying to start a business. And of course, you just get so scatterbrained when you're doing that. And then even when they make money, let's say they make a lot of money as a YouTuber, instead of reinvesting that back into the central thing that they understand that they have control over and they have that strong return on investment over, they take that earnings and they invest it in something else where their circle of competence is less. And that's a big mistake. You don't want to go investing in cryptocurrency or real estate or, something else that you know less about, and now you're a beginner and competing against other people again, when your circle of competence and how you made your money was as a YouTuber. So in a similar sense, a lot of these billionaires, they had a central understanding of what they should work on and what they should invest in. And sometimes, depending on a person, you have the Bransons and, you have Phil Knight of Shoe Dog, of Nike, who essentially, they didn't really know if their business, they never really knew their business would really reach those astronomical heights that they are now. And there were many times when they almost went bankrupt, and it was almost like, oh my gosh, are they going to make it? But they believed in something. They believed in, and it wasn't always a financial decision that was sound and logic and low risk, but they believed in something enough to continue to invest in it. And usually, they still minimize risks, but they would focus on that. When Nike tanked, when Virgin tanked, they would start to work on that and grow that again. They didn't have 6 different things that they were juggling at once. And once they made their money in a certain thing, they kept it within that Virgin brand or that Nike brand. They didn't take a large portion of that and do something crazy. And that's usually where people lose money. They make those mistakes. Number 4, fourth sign you won't be a billionaire is the work ethic, the passion, the exhilaration, the almost dogged tiredness that some of these people have. And I have to describe this energy that they have in a very specific way, because I think people always mislabel it 100% as it's always passion. But there's different flavors to it. And what I mean is that if you take Sam Walton, I feel like he was almost genetically wired to just be drawn to this thing. I don't know if it was really a passion as much as just like, man, he just had to do it. He just almost gut reaction. He looked at things a certain way. He measured aisles. He did things. He went to competitors in his free time. He took a audio recorder with him. He copied and measured everything that his competitors did that was working better than him. He innovated, but at the same time he was just so persistent. And it wasn't so much a passion as you would define the word, because passion is almost like, oh yeah, this is fun. It's like a video game. It's like this. To him, it was almost like he couldn't help but not do it. It was like, that's what's he got to do. So there's that, and then there's other people who really do find that passion and enjoyment from what they do, and those are the people like Richard Branson and Phil Knight, and then there are people in between. The founder of Marriott, founder of Chick-fil-A, who have a little bit of both in them, and then the people who really are passionate about what they do, the Warren Buffetts, the Bill Gateses, the Charlie Mungers of the world. So you have all these different types of individuals, and I think when you boil it down, all of them invested a good deal of time, focus, and energy on that thing they loved. Oftentimes, it would mean sacrificing time. Doesn't always mean time away from the family. It can. But Richard Branson is a case where he actually was able to still stay with his family because he worked from home. But it often does mean a good amount of work. I mean, Bill Gates didn't take vacation for years, and it often required a lot of just straight dogged pursuit of this thing. Pursuit sometimes because that was the decade where they could create and capture market share. If they put the foot up from the pedal, it wouldn't be the same. Sam Walton of Walmart, he pushed hard for a decade because he was competing against Kmart and Target and all these other stores, and he had to go fast and just acquire and build stores and grow rapidly before the other stores caught on and took their market share. And this little guy from this little state took these other giant corporations to the cleaners. It was incredible, and it could happen again, as he says in the book. In fact, he says it's probably already happening again. And then I think number 5, I think the 5th thing, when you look at Jeff Bezos, when you look at a bunch of other billionaires that you've never heard of, the founder of Walmart, the founder of Chick-fil-A, the founder of Home Depot, the founder of Pizza Hut, all these people and more, and some that you have heard of, and others you haven't. I think a lot of them have mental models, whether they can crystally define them, like a Charlie Munger or a Ray Dalio, versus other people who are kind of less of the financial and quantifiable sense, like a Phil Knight. All of them have certain models of how to do things, certain rules that they develop, certain filters that they look through to assess investments, to assess people, to assess who to hire, what to acquire, what to venture their money into, what to stay out of. They have certain laws, rules, principles that they've developed through their mentors, through experience, through logic, that have helped them succeed, not always just in business, but also in life and happiness. And you have Charlie Munger, who has very specific, quantifiable mental models and filters, like eliminating all your psychological cognitive biases, um, like staying in your circle of competence, and also other specific tests in terms of his investment model, pricing, uh, intrinsic value, all that stuff. And then you have, some people who, on the surface, it may seem less thoughtful and more kind of intangible or gut feeling, but they still have models behind them, like a Phil Knight, who was basically one of the best people at hiring other individuals, and he thought that was the quantifier that really changed his game. He hired the right people, which grew Nike, and so he had certain things he looked for when he would partner with people, and his seemed to be more of a kind of a gut thing, but it still worked well, and he had those models. Take even Oprah Winfrey, billionaire, and did it in one of the most unpredictable ways, the entertainment industry, where very few people ever become a billionaire. And when you look at her, you might think, oh, this girl is definitely on the less quantifiable left brain side and the more right brained, artistic side. She still has mental models. If you watch her interviews, or her books, she quantifies and breaks down the human experience, what it is that humans want at their core, all humans want. And she explains it very articulately, and you can understand. She is a master communicator, and through that, she still has mental models on what she needs to do when interviewing people as a talk show host and communicating with them to get the most rapport, show that they are loved, show that they're appreciated, and really get the most out of them by helping them out the most. And she has all these things that she's learned, such as that everyone, no matter if they're a criminal or the president of the United States, wants to know that they've been heard, that they've been acknowledged. All humans, they want to be appreciated, want to be included. Those are things that she learned and developed. She also learned specific nuances of interviewing and communicating. When she shouldn't push too hard, even when the producer is trying to egg something on, because then it leads to a level of discomfort in her guests that she can never recover from. Those are the things that you need to start working on. Mental models. Do you have these? Do you have these principles that you're filtering life through? Are you tweaking and adding to your principles as life shows up and tells you that principle doesn't always work? So those are the 5 signs that you may not be a billionaire, and through those you might be able to tweak them if you're open-minded enough, and maybe you could be a billionaire. Who knows? Maybe someone watching this will be a billionaire one day. Then you'll circle back to me in 50 years and send me a car. Just kidding. But really, no, just kidding. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment letting me know who your favorite billionaire is and your most useful tip you've learned from that billionaire. Help our community out in the comments below. Like, subscribe. See you later.